I'm having the time of my life. Everything's going alright. Ooh, I just made them look twice. This is how it feels when you living that good, good life. I'm just living that good, good life. I'm just living that good, good life. I'm just living that good, good life. Good, good life.
Happy holidays, Grant Victor family and friends. It's with great pleasure that I get to report on this year's Grant Victor Cares activities in Kenya. We are so appreciative to each of you that contributed in both small and big ways to making this a success. This year we did something unique. Whereas typically we would focus on a single village and specific projects within that village, with the COVID outbreak, we decided to visit all of our friends and families of those earlier villages and find ways that we could contribute just a little bit more to each of them. What that means is instead of just visiting one village, we visited every village that we have been part of in these last several years.
As we arrived in Kenya, we were a bit anxious to find out what was in store for the team. We had heard of increasingly challenging conditions. We knew that their drought had worsened, that they had lost members of the village to COVID and other diseases. Driving through the countryside, we saw where fields that had previously been rows and rows of corn were now empty fields of dirt and weeds. But to our surprise, we were met with more smiles than ever. These people weren't miserable. They didn't appear to be suffering. They weren't begging for help. Instead, they were celebrating our return and were so happy to show us what they had done with our earlier contributions. As we discussed our experience as a team that evening, we voiced a common theme. These wonderful people had chosen to be happy. They had chosen to be grateful, not grumpy. They were counting their blessings and making their blessings count.
One of the impressions that I had on this trip, more than any other time, having the benefit of visiting so many villages, was the legacy that has been left behind by each of you. It was so rewarding to go into a village and see desks with customers' names on them, or classrooms that have been branded with a particular customer or partner name. It was a good reminder that we've laid a strong foundation for their continued success. They were so grateful for not only the things that we had done for them, but for the people that were represented by each of those things and the relationships that have been established over time. One day we pulled into the village of Boyani, and among other things, had an opportunity to walk through these classrooms that are now 4 or 5 years old. As I walked through the 3rd grade classroom, I was impressed as I saw the desk of Leroy Huntmer. Many of you know Leroy, formerly with Medibank. He left us a few years ago. Seeing his name reminded me, it really is all about people. It's about the relationships that we create. It's about the things we can do for others. This year, one of the common themes seemed to be gratitude. People often wonder, what is it exactly that we do over in Kenya? And I like to think it's about giving these villages a little nudge. It's about creating opportunities. It's about creating hope. I experienced that firsthand this year as we revisited the village of Boyani, where I had been in 2015. I remember specifically going around the classroom and asking each of the children what they were going to be when they grow up. I remember hearing answers like farmer, mother, teacher. This year, when I handed out those same pencils and suckers and asked the children what they want to be, their answers were engineers, pilots, scientists. Although every role is important in our lives, it was nice to see that their horizon has changed just a little bit.
Now let me introduce you to our travel team. I'd love for you to hear about their thoughts and impressions from the trip.
All right, let's do this.
In words only, what is Kenya?
Vibrant,
ecstatic,
life-changing,
Full of life.
inspiring,
authentic,
happy,
And completely unselfish.
What is gratitude to you?
more than just being glad that you have something. It's recognizing the source.
Being grateful for the things that we sometimes take for granted.
being grateful for even the little things.
What do you think Grant Victor Cares does for those people out there?
I think about the way they're really transforming these communities.
They're helping them get a good education, which is setting them up for the rest of their lives.
I think Grant Victor gives them more opportunities to do more with their futures.
And when we were there, I was really impressed by how the whole community would rally around the school and these kids, and how it started with the company building one school, and soon it was a whole village coming together.
Without Grant Victor Cares, their opportunities would diminish greatly.
the donations that each business gives, or families or individuals, you get to see how they're used each time you go over there. It's amazing to see the difference that it makes in these villages' lives, the kids, the parents, and I can't think of a better thing to contribute to the future of these kids and their education.
So we were in the middle of nowhere in Kenya, in these villages, just miles in, and just seeing the contributors' names written on the school or on the tables was just so it was so touching.
I learned that there is great power in being remembered. And when people realized that we had remembered them from 5 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it meant so much to them. And we could see their eyes light up, and we could see how excited they were to know that Grant Victor Cares remembered their village and their names. And some of them would come up, and I said to one of the teachers, I said, "It's so good to see you." And she said to me, "It's so good to see you again." And I knew that they were just really happy to be remembered.
So I really learned, I think, to have an attitude of gratitude from the people in Kenya, because they're just full of gratitude while having so little compared to us. But in a way, they have so much more, because we can bring goods and school supplies and medical supplies and clothing for them, but they give us so much more with their examples and their just beautiful spirits.
I would just like to say thanks to Grant Victor and Grant Victor Cares and all the contributors.
Going to Kenya and being part of this trip was more amazing than I ever could have imagined, and I am incredibly grateful I got to go and incredibly grateful for everything I learned.
I am so grateful for the people that I met over there and the experiences that I had.
Hippos sink to the bottom of the water and run along the bottom of the river, and I did not know that before.
They are crazy loud.
They are one of the most dangerous animals in Africa.
This year, we selected the hippo as our animal. Often misunderstood as simply being ferocious, we saw firsthand that this aggression comes through its protection of its own. We appreciate the role that each of you have played in helping us protect and support these wonderful people in Kenya. there's no question you've made a difference. We've laid a foundation for the success of these children's education that otherwise would have never existed. And there's so much more that we can do. We appreciate your ongoing support. Happy holidays.